Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I am going to be talking about prompt hierarchy. This is for 683. So first, I just wanted to start it by showing you kind of what the prompt hierarchy is. We are going to be talking about the 7 different levels of prompting. First, starting with independence, then gestural, then verbal, visual, model, partial physical, and then full physical. As you can see, if you look at the arrows, independent to full physical is going to be the least to most prompting, and then also going from full physical to independent is going to be the most to least prompting. We will talk about kind of how to gauge the skills to use. So first, what is a prompt? Prompt is a strategy used to correct the learner while still increasing learning. It is usually placed after the instruction, but before the response. It can be an instruction, a gesture, a demonstration, some sort of touch that increases the likelihood that the child will end up making the correct response. It's a type of assistance given by someone before the learner attempts the skill. Prompts are important to ensure that there is no error that is made when the child is responding to the SD, the request, or the question that is given. This helps them gain confidence because they are getting the correct answer with a little bit of help, and then you are able to fade back those prompt levels in order to fully achieve that independence. So starting with independence is there is no prompt. They answer the question. So if you ask a student, what is your name? Alyssa. That would be an independent response because of the fact that the instructor did not have to give any sort of strategy to get that correct answer. The second one is gestural. So this is talking about gesturing to something, pointing to something for that student to understand that that is what you're asking. So if you're saying, touch the marker, and a gestural prompt would be, touch the marker, and then they touch the marker. So you're gesturing to the actual object so that they know that that is actually what you are wanting. So if you had an array of 2 and you say, touch the marker, and you point here, they know that this is the marker and this is not the marker, and this is what you're asking them to touch. A verbal is something that you say. So if the question or the SD is, what does a cow say? And they don't say anything, you can say, ooh, moo. And then if they respond that, so you can either have a partial verbal, which is the or the whole correct answer, which is the moo. So after verbal, you go to visual. So if you're saying, so if this is your question and you ask them, what's this word? And they have no idea what this word is, you can do a visual of, what's this word? You're giving them the visual cue that this is a marker, so this word is marker, so they can then answer the question based on this visual cue. A visual cue can also be any sort of picture. So if you're asking the question, a cow says moo, you could have a picture of a cow. So that can trigger that this is the animal that they're talking about. Then they can infer that the cow says moo. After verbal, you go down to a model. A model could be you showing them how to tie your shoes. You're sitting next to them. You're doing step over step, crossing the laces, pulling tight, making the bunny ears, all of that. But it can also be as simple as saying, if your question or your SD is, write the letter A, and they don't understand and they don't respond, you can say, write the letter A. And give them that model of actually doing that activity. So if you also want to say, if your question is clap your hands, they don't respond, you can say clap your hands. You're modeling the action that you are trying to get them to do. After model, it's going to be a partial physical. So if your SD or question is touch the computer, the simplest way of a partial is just barely touching. If I'm trying to touch the computer, it would be touch the computer. I'm barely touching them, that very light physical touch of touch the computer. It could be as simple as touching the back of their shoulder to, if you're telling them to turn around and you just touch here just so they can turn around. That is different than a full physical. Full physical is actually taking and physically doing it. So if you say touch the computer, it would be a full grab, and I'm never letting go of that physical. If you're telling them to stomp their feet and you need a full physical, you would actually be grabbing onto their legs and putting one leg up and down over and over to show them that is stomping their feet. The best way to gauge what type of prompt level they are is due to the response that you take in that initial training. So if you know that imitating someone is hard for them, you would most likely start with the most to least, starting with a physical and then going all the way into your independent. If you're trying to get some sort of interverbal or answering of question, you really are going to probably stay with this verbal or visual, just because you can't physically prompt a verbal response. So what we want is all of our questions for them to be independent, all of our students to be independent in answering. Typically, you do start with most to least prompting when you're teaching a new skill, so that way they are getting that correct, those correct responses. That way, building confidence and being able to use that repetitiveness of learning the skill. So again, the prompt hierarchy, 7 levels: independent, gestural, verbal, visual, model, partial physical, full physical. You can go both ways. You can go least to most prompting or most to least prompting, depending on the skill level of your student. Prompts are really, really, really important, especially for children that are learning new skills. If you are able to implement any of these levels to ensure the correct answer, you are definitely helping them. So the prompt hierarchy is definitely a great skill to use when teaching new skills. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.